Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. Shock and terror hook. The phone fell from her hands and struck the wooden floor with a sickening crack. A crack not from the phone itself, but from something else. Charlie Harper staggered back against her bedroom wall, knuckles white against the plaster. The phone's light remained face up, illuminating the dimly furnished room in a ghostly glow. There on the screen was the Facebook video call that should have been impossible. Charlie pressed herself against the wall, trying to slow her breathing, trying to pretend this was all some kind of sick joke. But it wasn't. The face staring back at her from the phone, the face smiling a grotesque two-road dental nightmare, belonged to someone who should be dead. Her twin sister, Ava Harper. Ava's face filled the phone's viewfinder, her piercing green eyes glimmering through. A blackish film, the kind you'd find over a corpse's eyes. The cheeks were thinner, almost leathery, not the smooth softness Charlie remembered. Her lips were purple, the skin peeling. There were twisting black veins spider-webbing under her flesh. "Charlie," Ava whispered. A voice not quite human, gravelly, distant, and filled with an icy malice. Charlie pressed her hands against her ears, shaking her head. "No, you're gone. You're not real." Ava remained on the phone's screen, unfazed, a grotesque smirk creeping across her face. "I'm not gone. I'm not finished." Suddenly, the phone jumped, without touching it. Without anyone nearby, it slid across the wooden boards toward her feet. Charlie pressed herself into the corner of the room, trying to back away, but there was nowhere left to go. Then something fell from above, a piece of ceiling tile, nearly striking her shoulder. It shattered against the phone, and for a moment, the light went black. Charlie held her breath. The silence seemed eternal, a black hole threatening to swallow her whole. Then the phone turned back on by itself. The face was gone. But now something else filled the viewfinder. A dimly lit basement, a place Charlie recognized immediately. The Harper family's basement. The basement that had been locked and abandoned for years after Ava fell. After Ava died. Charlie tried to look away, tried to close her eyes, tried to pretend it was a dream. But the phone remained anchored to her. A piercing thread tying her soul to whatever was staring back from that basement. The view dipped downward and forward. Something was descending into the basement, and then, in the corner, a small, hunched silhouette appeared. Black hair fell forward in knotted locks, obscuring its face. The silhouette turned, eyes glimmered, piercing green, the last color of her twin's soul. Charlie pressed her back against the wall, knuckles white, voice a tremble. "Ava, please, please, rest." The silhouette remained silent, then it stood. The phone fell forward, face down on the wooden boards. The view went black once more, and a rush of icy air filled the room. The phone pressed against the baseboard. Then, a single message appeared on the phone's screen. A Facebook message. From Ava Harper. "See you soon, Charlie." Charlie remained pressed against the wall, shaking, unsure what was real and what was nightmare. But deep down she knew. This was only the beginning. Suspense and escalation. Charlie pressed her forehead against the chilly wooden wall of her bedroom, trying to will away the fear that gnawed at her from within. Her pulse seemed to tremble through her whole body. Whatever had come through that phone, whatever had gotten into her messages, it was real. It hadn't been a nightmare. It hadn't been a trick. Ava, or something wearing her face, was back. As the minutes ticked by in oppressive silence, Charlie fought the temptation to destroy her phone, to cut herself off from whatever was trying to reach her. But something kept her from following through, a strange thread tying her soul to Ava's. A feeling that ignoring it would be more dangerous than acknowledging it. For nearly an hour, Charlie remained in the corner of her room, phone in hand, staring at the last message. "See you soon, Charlie." The phone seemed heavier now, not just a piece of metal and glass, but a physical manifestation of a nightmare trying to manifest itself in her world. Suddenly, without touching it, the phone opened the Facebook Messenger app and started scrolling upward, messages from years back. Charlie held her breath as their conversations unfurled in reverse. Messages filled with loving exchanges, plans for the future, promises, until it landed on their last conversation, the day Ava fell from the rooftop of Harper Heights. Charlie hadn't meant it. She hadn't pushed her. There'd been a scuffle, a misunderstanding, a moment of raw, impulsive rage. The two sisters fought over something trivial in the grand scheme of their lives, yet it was enough to destroy everything. The phone glowed purple-black for a moment, and then fell dark. Charlie pressed the phone against her chest, battling the rush of shame and regret. Whatever was contacting her seemed to know the hidden chapters of their story. Chapters not even the police reports, journalists, or their parents were privy to. It seemed to be not only Ava, but something else, something older, darker, something that had been attached to their family for generations. Suddenly, a crackling voice, a voice not entirely human, whispered from the phone speaker, "Your confession will come, whether you want it or not." The phone fell from her hands, bouncing against the wooden boards. Charlie pressed herself against the wall once more, shaking. As the clock struck midnight, its chimes piercing through the silence, a freezing gust of air rushed into her room, although all the windows were closed. The phone's face up. Screen briefly glimmered, then fell black again. Charlie tried to convince herself it was a power surge, a phone glitch, a figment of her imagination. But deep down she knew something else was at play. Whatever had come back was not finished with her, and it demanded something from her. Suddenly, the phone turned back on, all by itself, and a video started to play. The view was shaky at first, a dimly lit basement filled with cobwebs and discarded furniture. The phone seemed to be moving forward on its own, descending a set of wooden stairs, much in the way it had previously. Only this time, the view fell upon something different. At the base of the stairs was a small, rusted trunk, the Harper family trunk, a place where photo albums, letters, and mementos were kept under a heavy lock. Slowly, the phone's view drew closer and closer, until the trunk filled the frame. Then, without a hand touching it, the trunk opened with a piercing creaking. Inside were photographs of the Harper sisters, snapshots from their earliest years. The phone zoomed in on a photo of Ava and Charlie smiling side by side on their first day of school, holding hands in matching dresses. The photo seemed alive. The children in it were moving, shifting their heads, staring back at the phone, back at Charlie, with piercing green eyes. Suddenly the photo fell forward, off the stack, and in its place, something else. Appeared a bloody piece of cloth. As the phone drew closer, Charlie recognized it immediately. It was a piece of the shirt Ava had been wearing the day she fell. The cloth was stiff with dried blood, a literal thread tying the tragedy of their past to this awful present. The phone trembled and fell. The view fell into blackness once more. Charlie pressed her knuckles against her forehead, battling a rush of memories. The rooftop, the arguing, the moment Ava fell, or was pushed. The doubts gnawed at her. Did she lose her grip by accident? Or did something within her, something dark, let it happen? As she fought to remember, the phone suddenly buzzed again. A text appeared on the screen, not from a number, but from Ava Harper herself. "Don't lie to yourself, Charlie. Tell me the truth." Charlie fell to her knees, phone slipping from her hands once more. How much longer could she keep the awful truth hidden? Fear, revelation, and escalation. Charlie knelt on her bedroom floor, phone face down beside her, its black mirror glimmering dimly in the sparse glow from her alarm clock. The clock struck 2:47 a.m. a time that seemed to illuminate something awful, a moment when the soul hangs in a liminal space, when the barrier between the living and the dead is at its weakest. Her knuckles were pressed white against her thighs. She tried not to tremble, tried not to let her imagination spiral, but this was no imagination. Whatever was happening was real. Ava was back, in some form, and it demanded something from Charlie. The phone buzzed again. For a moment, Charlie contemplated ignoring it. If she turned it face up, pressed her thumb against it, then whatever was on the other side might come pouring through. But ignoring it seemed even more dangerous. Reluctantly, with shaky hands, Charlie turned the phone over. The message on the screen made her stomach knot. "Meet me where it all fell." The rooftop of Harper Heights, the place where their world fell apart, quite literally. Charlie pressed the phone against her forehead. Flashed through her mind were memories from that day. The two sisters arguing, hands grabbing, a moment of imbalance. Then Ava's horrified face tilting backward into the air. A silent, eternal drop. Charlie whispered under her breath, I hadn't meant it. It was an accident." But something gnawed at her soul, something that made her question her own motives, her own actions, something more sinister. What if it hadn't been an accident at all? Suddenly, a photo appeared in her messages, a photo taken from the rooftop, the view from the very spot where Ava fell. The city stretched out, below in a labyrinth of purple-black buildings and orange rooftop lamps, and there, on the rooftop's gravel, were two pairs of shoe prints. One belonged to Ava, the other to Charlie. Charlie pressed her phone against her forehead, battling memories, battling suspicion. How much of her own mind was unreliable? How much had she erased or misunderstood? The phone buzzed again. A voice memo this time. Charlie pressed. "Play!" Ava's voice, gravelly distant, filled with icy malice, flowed into the room. "Don't pretend you fell. We both know you pushed me." Charlie staggered backward and fell against her dresser. "That's not true. I tried to save you." But did she? The thought gnawed at her, a black hole growing in her mind. What if, in a moment of rage, in a moment of weakness, she had meant it? As this doubt gnawed at her soul, the phone fell from her hands once more, and when it struck the wooden floor, the screen opened the phone's photo album all by itself. Picture after picture opened in a horrendous slideshow, snapshots from their years growing up together, but each photo was subtly altered. Ava's face was gone in all of them, erased, scratched away, and in her place was a silhouette, a black void, a literal hole in their past. Charlie pressed her knuckles against her forehead, trying to piece together the true story from her faulty memories. Who was responsible for Ava's death? Was it her, or something else? Something that lived within their family, within their bloodline? Suddenly, without touching it, the phone fell silent and closed its photo album. The clock struck 3 a.m., and then a new text appeared. "See you soon, at Harper Heights." Charlie remained sitting on the floor, phone dim against the wooden boards, her pulse roaring in her ears. This was it. There was no turning back. Whatever this force was, Ava, a ghost, something more sinister, it demanded a showdown, a confession. And the rooftop would be the place where the truth came to light. The climactic ascent, Charlie stood at the base of Harper Heights, staring up into the oppressive silhouette of the rooftop against a purple-black sky. The thunderclouds were starting to roll in from the west, adding a strange pressure to the air, a feeling that something elemental was about to break. She tightened her grip on her phone, knuckles gone white, afraid it might suddenly come alive in her hands again, afraid it might send another photo, another voice memo, another confession. The building itself seemed taller than it had in her memories, a monolith piercing upward into a heavenscape gone mad. Charlie pressed forward anyway, ignoring the fear that gnawed at her soul. This was a journey she had avoided for years. This was a place she hadn't crossed the threshold of, until now. As she entered Harper Heights' dimly lit entrance, the heavy wooden door closed on its own with a deep, anguished boom. Charlie jumped, spinning back toward it, trying the handle, but it remained locked. Some force, or someone, was not letting her backtrack. She was meant to move forward, upward, toward whatever showdown lay at the rooftop. The elevator was dark, abandoned. The power seemed to be failing. Its indicator light glimmered weakly at G, the ground floor, then fell black. Charlie pressed the button anyway. For a moment, silence, then a deep, mechanical shudder. The elevator came alive, and its metal gate opened with a piercing screech. Reluctantly, Charlie entered. As the lift rose, it seemed to tremble and sway, clicking upward, floor by painful floor. The phone fell silent in her pocket, for now, but her mind filled in its silence with doubts, memories, and questions she hadn't faced in years. She pressed against the back wall of the elevator, closing her eyes, letting her senses wander backwards in time, back to the rooftop, back to the moment when two sisters fought, when a push made all the difference. She remembered Ava's face in those final seconds, a mixture of disbelief, betrayal, and something else, something sinister, something not entirely human. Charlie forced her eyes back open and pressed herself forward. Whatever this was, whatever Harper Heights was, it seemed the tragedy hadn't just been about two sisters. Something else had gotten its claws into their family long before their falling out. The elevator came to a grinding halt at the rooftop. The gate opened, and a freezing rush of air swept into the lift, nearly tearing Charlie off her feet. Lightning glimmered in purple webs across the thunderclouds above, illuminating Harper Heights' rooftop in brief snapshots, a barren, gravel-covered expanse, a rusted fence, and someone, stood near the edge. A silhouette, hunched against the icy wind, wearing a tattered hospital gown, hair whipping wildly, face hidden in shadow. Charlie stepped forward, phone in hand. As she crossed the rooftop, the phone suddenly came alive again, a piercing, alarm-like tone, a video call from Ava Harper. Charlie pressed answer. The phone's camera opened and a grotesque view appeared. Ava's face, or what remained of it. Her skin was purple-black, bloated, nearly peeling. Her eyes were gone, two black hollows. Yet somehow she saw. And through the phone's tiny speakers came a voice made of gravel and thunder. "I fell. Because you let me, or because you wanted me gone." Charlie fell to her knees in the gravel. "That's not true. I tried to hold on. I tried to save you." Ava remained silent for a moment. Then the phone fell from Charlie's hands and landed face up in the gravel, its camera now framing the rooftop fence. Suddenly, impossibly, Ava was there in person. A silhouette crossed into view, not a phone video, but something physical, something that crossed from phone into reality. Charlie staggered backward, unsure if this was a ghost, a monster, or something else. Ava raised a grotesque hand, a hand made of ashes and memories, and whispered, "It's time to face what you did." The fall of truth. Charlie pressed her back against the rooftop fence, gravel shifting beneath, her feet threatening to undermine her balance at any moment. The silhouette that was Ava seemed less and less human and more elemental, a manifestation of years of regret, shame, and unfinished business. The ashes that fell from Ava's hands seemed to hang in the air, suspended, unwilling to obey the pull of gravity. The heavens rumbled. The thunder seemed to form a chorus with Ava's voice. "Your confession is all I want. The moment you admit what you did, this nightmare can end." Charlie's pulse thudded in her ears. Her knuckles tightened on the fence until her skin broke and a bead of blood fell, adding itself to the ashes swirling above. I pushed you." The confession fell from her lips, raw and anguished. "It was me. I was jealous, furious, that you were always the perfect one, that everyone chose you, that you were the light, and I was the shadow." For a moment, silence fell, a deep, oppressive hush, as if the universe itself held its breath. Ava remained motionless. Then, with a horrific, tearing movement, her silhouette opened up, a chasm within her form, a black void that seemed to lead into something else, somewhere else. Charlie fell to her knees, staring into it, into years of regret made manifest. Flames and memories flowed from it, snapshots of their life together, two little girls giggling under a blanket fort, two sisters spinning in the rain. Then, the moment it all fell, the moment hands pushed, and a body fell backwards into oblivion. "It's not enough." Ava's voice seemed to come from all directions now, from the heavens above and the gravel below, from within Charlie's own soul. "It's not enough. Until you become me, until you suffer what I suffered, until you become the monster you made me." Suddenly, grotesque hands made of ashes and memories sprang from the chasm, wrapping around Charlie's limbs, tearing at her, lifting her off the rooftop. Charlie cried, begged for mercy, but there was none. The heavens opened. A piercing bolt of purple-black thunder struck directly into her, filling her with a freezing agony, a curse, a reversal. Charlie Harper was becoming the very thing she feared, a restless soul, stranded between worlds, unable to find peace. As the transformation took hold, her skin grew translucent, her hands seemed to fade into shadow. Her voice faltered, her form fell forward into the chasm, and then silence. The thunder fell silent. The ashes fell. The rooftop stood barren once more, except for a single phone resting in the gravel, its face-up camera now a black mirror, a permanent, silent record of what had come to pass. Dark closure and chilling twist. The thunder fell silent. The ashes were gone. The rooftop stood barren under purple-black skies, a place stranded somewhere between the earthly and the eternal. A liminal space where the past and future seemed to fold into a single moment. Charlie Harper was no more, at least not in the form she had once been. Where a young woman filled with regret and shame once stood, there was now something else, something less, something more. A silhouette made of shadow and ashes, a restless soul bound to Harper Heights for eternity, a guardian, or a prisoner. As the heavens opened, just enough to illuminate the rooftop, a small phone fell from the void, bouncing once against gravel, then resting face up under a dim glow. The phone buzzed, a final message popping up on the black mirror of its screen. "Your confession opened the door. Now you can't close it." In that moment, a piercing chorus of children's voices seemed to rise from the phone. A chorus made up of all the Harper children, Charlie, Ava, generations gone by, restless ghosts tying their fate to this rooftop. Suddenly a face pressed against the phone's camera from the other side, a face that seemed to be Charlie's and Ava's and something in between, a grotesque fusion of two sisters into a single soul, a soul divided against itself. The face whispered, "We are Harper, and Harper is us, forever." The phone fell silent, the heavens closed, and a dramatic thunderclap shook Harper Heights once more, a shockwave that seemed to ripple across the city. A warning, or a curse, a manifestation of a tragedy made eternal. The final twist, the hidden truth, was this: Charlie hadn't pushed Ava in a moment of rage. Ava hadn't fallen by accident. The Harper family was already bound by something ancient, something that demanded a sacrifice. Two sisters battling over a legacy they barely understood, a curse that flowed through their veins long before their own birth. In trying to destroy each other, the Harper sisters had become its greatest prisoners, and now they were the curse, two halves of a nightmare made whole. As the view from the phone slowly dimmed, as Harper Heights fell into its eternal silence, the last words remained on the phone's darkening screen. Some doors were meant to stay locked. The end.